Meat, beans, cheese. Better yet, delicious, mouth-watering burritos that can be frozen and produced in mass. What's up, gamers? My name is John Solo, Twitch's #1 hand model, and for today, we are bringing you the greatest meal prep guide that is extremely efficient for one-person households, and if you have more than one person, this also works too, but you just gotta share. You normally know me from video game guides, but here today, we're here to help you with a meal prep guide. If you used to think like me, cooking for one person seems like it can be financially irresponsible most of the time, but these burritos that we're about to make can be made in bulk to be frozen and reheated in the oven, microwave, toaster oven, or even the air fryer, which maximizes your free time while not giving up on the quality of food that you're eating or struggling to eat all that food prep in your refrigerator that can't be frozen, which we've both tried before. The goal of this video is to give you hearty meals that are easy to reheat and fuel your gaming session, make mom impressed, or even as a meal to take to work, which I do. So without further ado, let's get into this frozen burrito meal prep. For the ingredients, you need 3 pounds of hamburger meat. We need 3 taco sauce packets. We're gonna use the Old El Pasos, the same thing that we're using for the refried beans. You need a pound of refried beans, and then we get a pound of black beans using the bushes for this. You need about 2 pounds of cheese, but I get 2.5 pounds because I like shopping at Costco, and that's what they come in, and so I get the Mexican cheese. These are optional, but I like a little bit of extra seasoning, so I have black pepper and garlic salt. You can use Pam. You can also use butter, but I like using Pam. And then you need your tortillas. Then you also need your saucepans. So I have 3 saucepans, and then I have 1 deep pan that I use as well. I have 2 wooden spoons and then a spatula. You don't need 2 wooden spoons if you have the spatula. And then I also have a can opener. We have the cup measurer for the taco sauces, and then you need a strainer and then something to put your meat grease in. So that's what this is for. You also need to have tinfoil and gallon bags. Now, on to the cooking. So first thing that we do is we start our preheat, and we're gonna turn all of the saucepans up to high. And when we do that, we are also gonna mix up our hamburger meat. So I really like using these 1/3 pound frozen hamburger patties as hamburger meat, but like you can just use just a standard 3 pounds. Like you don't have to use these hamburger meats. But if you do use the hamburger meats, what I like to do is I like to mix them all together and mix them up before I put them into the saucepan. So while we're preheating, I season them really quickly with the black pepper and the garlic salt, which again, you don't really need to do this because you do get a lot of flavor out of just using the taco sauce packets. But I like using the garlic salt and the pepper again, just because I like a little bit more flavor in mine. And then so from here, we just mix up the patties and just make them not hamburgers anymore. So we're gonna mix them all up, mix the seasoning in. And you really want to make sure here too that after you do this that you're washing your hands because you are touching raw meat. So if you notice that after this, I do walk away and go and wash my hands after I finish mixing everything up. And the washing the hands is also a key step to this process because we're going to use it for our preheat as well. So what we do after we wash our hands is we take a little bit of that water while our hands are still wet, and we are going to flick our hands at the saucepans. And if we hear the water simmering, that is when we know that we are good to go and that our pans are hot enough to start cooking on. So we are going to wash our hands really good because again, we're touching meat. We don't want to be cross-contaminating in the cooking space. And so we're getting a towel as well just to wash our hands off afterwards. So we put our towel in, we are listening. You can kind of hear it simmer in the video. It's pretty quiet, but we heard it simmer. It sounded more simmery, if that's a word, in real life. So we're just gonna add our pan into the saucepans. And again, the reason why we use 3 is because we want our meat to be cooking evenly. We don't want our meat to be, not cooking evenly. It's also a lot easier to, when we get to the taco seasoning part, to do that. And so right here you can see me, I'm turning down the heat in the pans to the medium high instead of just on straight high. So I do turn it down. Normally on the oven I do like a 6 or 7. So we're adding in the meat. We're throwing away our plates because they were contaminated with raw meat. And then we just go into mixing. And again, the reason why we use the 3 saucepans, you don't have to use 3. You can cook it all in one. But I think it's just easier to do the taco seasoning because you need to do the water, and measuring out the water is just easier if you do it 3 times instead of doing math in 1 time. If you're really, really good at math, I guess you can be a nerd and do math, but yeah. So we're just browning the meat, and we're also right here. You can see me. I'm chopping the meat up a little bit more, breaking it up so that it doesn't cook in chunks, because we don't want it to cook in chunks. We want it to cook in as small of pieces as possible. So we're just gonna do our little stabby stabs here. Just break up the meat, kind of simmer it a little bit. I noticed that this back pan is cooking a little bit hotter than the rest of the pan, so that's why I'm focusing on it and flipping it first. You'll see me a little bit later in the video. I start juggling these pans a little bit and moving them from burner to burner, and that's what I'm doing, is that I'm just trying to make sure that the meat is cooking as evenly as possible. And we're still stabbing, still breaking up the meat. Anywhere that we see like a big chunk of meat, we're just making sure that we're breaking it up a little bit. And here's also a good time while you're browning the meat to just go ahead and open up your cans. So we're going to open up our cans. I have an old school can opener, but if you have one of those electric can openers, definitely use that instead. But yeah. We're using the old-fashioned can openers, and I don't like cutting the can top all the way off. I like leaving it on there and just flipping it up like that. I don't know why. I think it's like more of a preference. I feel like if I cut it all the way off, I almost forget that it was a can, and then I end up cutting my finger or something. So I leave it on and just flipped up like that. And as you can see, the meat is starting to simmer, and some of the fat from the meat is starting to simmer off. And that's what we're going to strain out once it's done. So again, we're just flipping anywhere that we see a lot of pink, and we're flipping it and making it to where, we see mostly the brown meat. Making sure that we're getting all the sides of the meat good. Anywhere that, again, is forming up clumps of hamburger meat, we're making sure to stab and break up. And you don't have to be a zealot here and absolutely make sure that everything is like absolutely perfect. You just need to brown it most of the way. You're going to be boiling water into it, so any meat that does slip past your radar and get into the next phase of cooking isn't going to kill you, because it'll get cooked during the sauce packet phase. So again, we're just, I know sorry that I keep repeating myself, but there's not much to talk about here other than just brown the meat. And, if you miss a piece, and you need to throw it back in. And I guess during this phase, I'll talk about why it's so important to not just pour your grease down your drain. If you own your property especially, don't do that. But the grease down the drain, what it does is it goes down into the drain, and it goes down in liquid form, and like it's still grease, and then it gets to somewhere where it solidifies, and it can just be really, really bad for your plumbing. It can be really, really bad for your community's sewage. So just whatever you do, try not to dump this just straight down the drain. Put it into some sort of container, and then throw the container into the trash can. or you can use it for cooking. It's really good for cooking other meals later. I don't personally use it for cooking. I always chuck that. But yeah, don't pour it down your drain, whatever you do. And so everything's starting to look brown here. We're looking for any piece that looks like it may still have pink in it, and we're flipping it over, flipping it into the other, like, we're really focusing on the stuff that has pink in it now. We're trying to put it into the grease, because the grease is simmering and boiling, and so the grease will also help cook it. Again, we're just sitting here, we're chopping it up now, again, because we saw some pieces that looked a little bit big, so we're just doing that through all processes here in this first phase of cooking the meat, which is just browning it. So some of it's cooking a little bit faster, so we're moving it around, and then we're turning down settings here as well to try to even out the cooking. And this one's starting to cook really well, so I actually take it half off the burner. And they're all starting to look good here, so I'm going to start draining here soon. And what I do is I start with the one that looks like it's cooked, the best. Or, well, I guess, yeah, you always do whichever one's, like, closest to burning. And so we're going to get our cup, and we're going to get our strainer, and we're going to put our strainer into a bowl or something like that. So you'll see me here in a second, and the reason why you put it into a bowl and you don't just leave the cup out and you try and pour it into the cup is that you are going to get some spots where you miss the cup and it goes out. And if you have grease, you really don't want to be spilling your grease anywhere. So we take the bowl, we put the cup in the bowl, and then we put the strainer on top of the bowl, and then we are going to pour the meat into the strainer. And you can see just the juice dripping down through the strainer, and that's what we're trying to get out. We're not trying to eat it. Because that's what makes these unhealthy. But if you get most of that stuff out of here, they're not the most unhealthy burritos in the world. They're not the healthiest thing in the world, but you'll definitely eat things that are a little bit less healthy than this. So once you strain out all the grease, you go to the next one, and you see you get about that much grease, and then I like to pour the meat back in if I missed and, put some meat in. And then we just keep going to the next one. We just are straining out all that meat grease. And then if you skip past the other thing and you're wondering why we strain this, you don't want to pour meat grease down your drain because it will solidify and then it'll get down in your drain and block your drain. So you really, really don't want to do that. And again, we're just going to pour the meat that we missed back in. And last one, straining out the grease. I decided that I needed to kind of, it started to cook really fast again. So I decided that I needed to actually move it around and mix it up a little bit before so that it didn't burn while I was doing the grease. And again, we're just getting that grease out. All right, and then I'm just adjusting the heat now back to what it was at the beginning, which is on a 7. And then from here, we're doing our, we're going to just add really quickly our pinto beans. Woo, I almost forgot what they were called for a second. So we're going to add our pinto beans in here so that they start heating up. We're going to mash it a little bit to, break it up and get it into the bottom of the pan so we're actually heating the pinto beans up. And you're just heating these up. These are already cooked, so you really don't even have to preheat it all. You can just turn it on to low or simmer, which is what I do. I put it on a 2. And then I just make sure that the beans are all even across the bottom is what I'm really making sure I'm doing here. And then we are adding our taco seasoning. So for here, we're following the exact back packet of the sauce. So we are adding the sauce packets. So we're gonna add this 3 sauce packets really fast. And you do actually need scissors for these packets. I thought that you could rip them off when I was doing the ingredients, but you can't rip them off. So you do need a pair of scissors in your ingredients as well, by the way. So and then we're following the directions on the back, which is to add 3/4 of a cup of water. And so we're gonna add 3/4 of a cup of water to each saucepan. And we're going to try and do it pretty fast because it's already starting to boil. So we need to do it fast. So you add 3/4 of water to each one. And then you mix them up. You mix the water into them. And you just want to try and get the sauce on everything is what we're doing here. We're trying to mix it up until all of our meat looks like it has the sauce on it. And then as this is boiling off, we're going to turn it down just a little bit as well. And we're going to turn it down to a simmer. And we're going to basically let all of this simmer off. And once it finishes simmering off, the meat is done. So you just basically look for no water left, really. And once you get to the point, I like to drain the black beans a little bit. So I drain the black beans and then I add about 1/3 of a can to it once I start noticing that the water is boiling off. So I don't let the water boil off fully. I let the water boil off just a little bit and then I add the black beans into it. So the black beans also get some of the taco seasoning. And so I just mix them in there. And when I'm leaving the pan, I'm making sure that most of the meat, wherever the sauce is collecting on the pan, I try to leave the meat in those areas. And with the smaller pan, as you can see, it hasn't started boiling off yet. So there's a lot more sauce in this pan compared to the other two. So I move it to the hottest burner, and then I even turn it up a little bit so I can catch it up. And again, this is kind of a little bit subjective to just how hot your oven gets. Or, well, not oven, stove. So if your stove gets really, really hot, it might boil off it might simmer off all the water really quickly. I like to try to get it to like a medium even ground to where it doesn't boil off too fast. But then again, we're not simmering in it all day and we're not turning it down so low to where it's not simmering off either. So you like to find that happy medium ground. I like to probably cook the meat. I don't know exactly how long I get it in this, but as you can see, I pointed to the grease, and the grease is already starting to solidify. It has a little bit of hamburger meat in the bottom of it, but if it was to be poured down the drain, this would already be causing problems. So you definitely want to have some sort of cup that you can pour the grease into. Preferably, if you're gonna, use it ever again, you want to put it in like some sort of disposable cup, unless you plan on using it. I said that I wasn't going to use it, and I normally don't, But I actually have a plan for this grease because it has the hamburger meat in it. I'm going to use it to cook some bacon in a few days. So I actually keep it so it's in a glass cup. Now you just saw me mix up the pinto beans there. You want to make sure that they are getting warm throughout the whole amount of pinto beans, and you also want to make sure that it's not sticking to the bottom. If you have your pan too hot, you could burn the bottom of the pinto beans, and that's definitely not good. If you notice that it's getting too hot and you're starting to like burn your pinto beans, you can always add a little bit of water into them and help bring them back to life. But ideally, you just put it on a 2 and you just let it simmer. So I just rinsed out this bowl right here because I'm going to put all of my hamburger meat into this bowl and let it cool off before I actually go in to start making the burritos themselves. So I rinsed it out. It didn't have anything in it like raw hamburger meat or anything like that. It just got a little bit of the pre-sauced hamburger meat in it. So again, what we're doing is we're just mixing up our meat and we are letting the sauce simmer off, and we're following the exact back directions on the packet, which is to just brown the hamburger meat, drain the grease, put the sauce packet in, add add 3/4 of a cup of water, and then just let it simmer out. And so, as you can see, my back burner there is done. So I did turn it. I left it to like a very, very low simmer. So the hamburger meat is still kind of simmering, but not really. The ones that are cooking are these 2 front ones here. And I'm just trying to let all of that water simmer off. So this one's starting to look good, but our small pan over there is still starting to struggle. It's finally starting to really, as you can see in the front pan there, the front right pan there, it's starting to really bubble and simmer. So we finally gotten the heat up in that pan to a good amount. And so we're just going to stir it up one last time, and hopefully this is also done. Yep, so these ones are starting to look really, really good. And we are almost done. I think this one is, it's getting close. So we're still letting a little bit of this simmer off. And here comes the tinfoil. So you do need some tinfoil for when you're actually making the burritos. So I'm getting that out and placing it here. I was looking for something to actually make the burritos on, and then I just decided, you know what, I'll make it on a plate. So I grabbed 2 plates, one to stack the burritos on, and then one to actually make the burritos on. And we're finally starting to look pretty close to being done here. I'm going to mix up the pinto beans one last time. And then I'm also just going to turn it off and let it just sit on the burner while the burner's off. And those will finish heating up the rest of the way. I also turned the front burner onto the highest setting possible to try to burn off the rest of the taco seasoning. I almost said grease there, but there's no more grease. We already strained all the grease. And we are finally looking close to being done. So now I'm just going to pour all of the hamburger meat into the bowl and then kind of let it cool off for a little bit before I actually go to making the burritos. So I don't let it cool off all the way, but I do move the small pan into the large pan here because the small pan just wasn't cooking as well as the large pan was. So I'm just going to take advantage of the large pan having more surface area and being able to cook the meat quicker. So I switched from the small pan to the large pan. This medium pan is starting to look pretty done. It's almost like, physics, where the larger surface area you have on the burner, the faster it cooks. So I guess you did learn something in science class, Jonathan. Oops, I hope post-production gets that and edits me dossing myself. I literally just said my name. Not that you probably could have guessed it from John Soloed, but we'll get a nice little beep in there. So again, we're just looking for stirring this so that none of it burns. And as we're stirring it, we are looking to see how much of the sauce we still have to burn off. And this one's starting to look good. Our small pan is also starting to look good now because we moved it to the big pan. I can't figure out where to put the spatula clearly. Holy cow, I didn't realize I struggled that hard. And then we're just turning everything off now. We're going to mix up our pinto beans just one last good time. They're good, so we're going to also make sure that those aren't all on a burner because we don't want to burn our pinto beans. Has happened before. Again, if you start to burn them, you can just add a little bit of water. And then we're just going to put all of our meat into this one bowl. So it just makes our little... we're going to make an assembly line, basically, for these burritos so that we can just make them really, really quickly. And we are going to add the last pound in here. And so now we have 3 full pounds of hamburger meat cooked. And a big mess to clean up afterwards. But we'll worry about that later. So we're going to mix up our hamburger meat here. And mix it up really good so that you can't tell which pan was which. And then it's going to finish off its final little bit in here where it just gets all the juices all over everything. So I'm going to periodically, while I'm letting this cool off, come back and stir it. So I do stir it probably about 5 times over the course of 10 minutes while I let that cool off. And our pinto beans also done. So I'm just going to move them over. Well, I'm going to put them back, but that's only because I'm not making the hamburger or the burritos yet. So here's us making the burritos. We are adding the beans, the meat, the cheese. So beans, meat, and cheese. And then if you accidentally make them too big, by the way, and you're afraid that you can't eat them, I just like to mark them and put FK on them for fork and knife. And then that just means that I'm going to eat that one with a fork and knife, and then probably put condiments on it too after I cook it. So I'll put lettuce and then sour cream on top of the burrito and then just eat it with a fork and knife. And so most of these I'm going to try and make the similar size. If you don't make any gigantic ones, like I just made another big one there. if you don't make any of these gigantic ones, you should be able to make 14 1/2 pound burritos with this recipe. And so I think I only end up making 11 here, but you just sit here, you keep making it. It's, just the beans, meat, cheese, and then we roll it up. And so I like to flip the two corners in on it. And so it basically makes like a burrito pocket. And so I flip the two in and then roll it up tight. And again, this part's pretty straightforward as well. You just keep making them until you have a nice stack like this. And then once you have the big stack, you need your gallon bags. And then you come back in here and you just I add 3 burritos per gallon bag. So we just add our burritos into the gallon bags, and you want to make sure that these gallon bags are freezer tight gallon bags as well. And that's them. That's our burritos. They're all cooked and ready to go in the freezer. So you just have your packs that you just put right into the freezer. When it comes to reheating, my favorite way is in the air fryer, but you can definitely use a microwave, toaster oven. I like to cook them for 20 minutes at 325. So we're gonna just preheat here. We are gonna go to our freezer and we are going to grab them out and we're going to cook them from frozen using this method. Again, this might be subjective depending on what kind of air fryer you have. You might have a bigger air fryer, smaller air fryer that might change to how you're cooking it, but you just want to test it and then cut it in half once you're done and test the middle of it. And you'll see me do that later on in this video. We are just going to get our burrito out. We are going to unroll it, and we're going to try our best not to damage the tinfoil because we are cooking on the tinfoil. If you're cooking in the microwave, please, Lord, do not put it in the tinfoil. You need to put it on a paper plate. Do not put tinfoil into the microwave. So again, we have the frozen burrito here, completely frozen solid. It's been in there for a few days now. And we're gonna wait for the preheat to be done. And once it's done preheating, we're just gonna drop our burrito right in. It's that simple. Just boom, drop it in, and now we just gotta wait. A few moments later. Exactly at the halfway mark, you want to take it out and flip it. And while you're trying to flip the burrito, you want to be very, very delicate not to tear the tortilla because it does like to stick to the tinfoil. A few more moments later. And from here, the burrito is done. You normally want to let it sit for about 2 minutes after it's finished, but I'm actually going to do something a little bit special here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it out and I'm going to cut it in half, and it's done here. And I actually burned myself by testing it, but as you can see, this is what it looks like when it's completely done. Just absolutely delicious, super hot. Now they're ready to eat. But what I like doing is I like actually putting them back in the air fryer for another minute on 400 and getting them nice, toasty, and crispy. And so we're gonna turn the air fryer back on to 400, and I actually will just put them in there during the preheat, so they get like about a minute and a half-ish of actual cook time. So we're gonna put them back in there, and we are just gonna let them cook. And yeah, that's basically it. So we're just making them like extra crunchy. So you're gonna see here, once they're done, we're gonna pull them back out. And, ooh, man, my mouth is watering just watching this video. They are so good. I can't do justice how good these freaking things are. And so, yeah, that's it. once you toast them up and get them nice and crispy, they look like this. And they are just like, again, just absolutely to die for. So I'm going to go eat these now. And yeah, that's how you make these burritos, guys. And with those burritos done, we're done too. Thank you all for watching. It really means a lot to me that you chose to watch my video. If you plan on making these burritos, please consider hitting the subscribe button and letting me know down in the comments how they turned out. Or if you have any questions, we try to answer every comment. If you made it this far, please hit that like button too, as it helps other people find the video as well. And if you like crude, silly goose humor, come on over and check out the live stream on Twitch. The link is down below. We laugh, chat, tell stories. Come on over and listen to the stupid stories, man. Lastly, just have a good rest of your day, and we'll see you next time.